Good morning, brothers and sisters. Today I'm going to be studying Isaiah 65. So if you want to, come along with me. I was sought by those, I'm in verse 1, who did not ask for me. I was found by those who did not seek me. I said, here I am, to a nation that was not called by my name. I've stretched out my hands all day long to a rebellious people who walk in a way that is not good, according to their own thoughts, a people who provoke me to anger continually to my face, who sacrifice in gardens and burn incense on altars of brick, who sit among the graves and spend the night in the tombs, who eat swine's flesh and the broth of abominable things in their vessels, who say, keep to yourself. Do not come near me, for I am holier than you. These are smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all the day. Okay, let's break this part down first. So, this is a people that's actually, in appearance anyway, seems to be seeking God, right? So one of the first things that came to my mind was Isaiah 58, because this isn't super clear, but I knew that this subject was addressed there too. So we're going to go there. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet, and remember, who is the house of Jacob? Who did Jacob/Israel give his name to? To Joseph, to the two sons of Joseph. He said that they would be called after his name. Okay, so here we're talking about Joseph in the latter days. Yeah, they seek me daily and delight to know my ways. So these are a people who are, at least by face value, seeking God. Okay, they are religious. They delight to know my ways. They read the scriptures and believe that they are following his ways. As a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. Okay, so this is how they're feeling about themselves. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching God. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls, and you take no notice? But okay, they're fasting and praying, and they're seeing that the miracles that are supposed to follow the believers are not happening. In fact, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure and exploit all your laborers. So he's telling them why. He says, well, for one thing, you exploit the workers. Okay? It's like slave wages, right? Where the people can't really support themselves, are eking out and living day to day, while there is another class of people who are enriching themselves, right? And living in abundance on their labors. Indeed, you fast for strife and debate, and to strike with the fist of wickedness. So this is a people who are warlike people, who probably are asking God to be on their side in their warlike endeavors. You will not fast as you do this day to make your voice heard on high. That's pretty clear, isn't it? Is it a fast that I have chosen? A day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head like a bulrush and to spread out sackcloth and ashes? Would you call this a fast and an acceptable day of Yahweh? So, they're putting on this appearance of fasting. In the olden days, that was putting on sackcloth and ashes. And even today, to some degree, it still is. Like those who are following the Catholic tradition, for Lent, they'll put the ashes on their forehead. But outside of that tradition, usually we come together as a group and everybody knows, who's fasting. So anyway, continuing on. Is this not the fast that I have chosen? And I think this is the crux of the message, Remember when I talked yesterday in 66 about the meaning of the word iniquity? Iniquity is to not have things equal. And we looked at Acts chapter 2, where they sold all of their surplus goods to take care of those who didn't have, so that they would have all things equally or in common. So that there wasn't bond and free, male and female, but everyone is alike unto God. Okay? So there are so many sirens today, I don't know why. Anyway, is this not the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke? That's what he wants from us. That's what he wants us to be fasting, to be changed, to be made new, so that wickedness has no more hold upon our hearts. To let the oppressed go free, no longer grinding the faces of the poor, and that you break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and not hide yourself from your own flesh. Then your light shall break forth like the morning. Your healing shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of Yahweh shall be your rear guard. Right? The glory of the Gentiles. So it says peace will flow like a river. We read that yesterday. And the glory of the Gentiles like a flowing stream. Because where is the house of Jacob found? Among the Gentiles. Continuing, then you shall call, and Yahweh will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, here I am. Another prophet who talked about this theme was Jeremiah. I'm in chapter 7. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, stand in the gate of Yahweh's house and proclaim there this word, and say, hear the word of Yahweh, all you of Judah, who enter in at these gates to worship Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. Do not trust in these lying words, saying, the temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh are these. These are the lying words. The temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh. This is exactly what's still happening to the Christians today. They believe that if they are not supporting the land of Israel, and they're not looking forward to the building of the third temple, then they are not readying themselves for being raptured. But here Jeremiah is clearly saying that putting your trust, that thinking that looking to the temple is going to save you, that those are lying words. So now, after addressing the fact that depending on the temple for salvation are lying words, then he goes on and he tells us what is required in verse 5. For if you thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if you do not oppress the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in this place, or walk after other gods to your hurt, then I will cause you to dwell in this place, in the land that I gave to your fathers forever and ever. Behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, commit adultery, swear falsely, burn incense to Baal? In other words, pray to Baal. We're going to get to that in a minute. And walk after other gods whom you do not know, and then come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations? Has this house, which is called by my name, become a den of thieves in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, says Yahweh. But go now to my place which was in Shiloh, and Shiloh is an important theme for the latter days, and I talked about it in the video called Jacob and the Everlasting Hills. So if you want to see what Shiloh is going to mean for us in the latter days, then go watch that video where I set my name at the first, okay? Because Shiloh was the place where the tabernacle was, and the people were to worship. It was in the territory of Ephraim, and it was the place long before Jerusalem became the place of worship. But go now to my place, which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it because of the wickedness of my people Israel. And now, because you have done all these works, says Yahweh, and I spoke to you rising up early and speaking, but you did not hear, and I called you, but you did not answer. Therefore I will do to the house which is called by my name, in which you trust, and to this place which I gave to you and your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all of your brethren, the whole posterity of Ephraim. Notice that here it's talking about Ephraim. And when it was talking about Shiloh and explaining what he did to Shiloh, how he destroyed it because of the wickedness of his people, Israel. Okay, that northern kingdom, Israel, because that's where Ephraim and Manasseh are. And they are the ones who were given that name. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Malachi, which talks about the priests of God in the latter days, basically gives this exact same message. It says, but who can endure the day of his coming, and who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like launderer's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. Okay, now comes the expansion. He will purify the sons of Levi. The sons of Levi are being compared to silver. And purge them as gold and silver. The sons of Levi. These will be the new priests and kings that he calls to himself. And actually, as we read in Revelation 5, we're going to see that again, but we'll move on. That they may offer to Yahweh an offering in righteousness. What is the righteous offering? A broken heart and contrite spirit. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasant to Yahweh, as in the days of old, as in former years. And I will come near for your judgment. I will be a swift witness against sorcerers, against adulterers, against perjurers, against those, look at this, who exploit wage earners. Okay? He's not okay with that. He's not okay with paying people pitifully for the work that they do, and widows and orphans, and against those who turn away an alien, because they do not fear me, says Yahweh Sabaoth. I'm back in Isaiah 65. I have stretched out my hands all day long to rebellious people who walk in a way that is not good, according to their own thoughts. Now remember also in Isaiah 1, this is absolutely one of the main themes. I'm in Isaiah 1, verse 16. That says, speaking to the daughters of Zion, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do good, seek justice, rebuke the oppressor, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. So we're getting this theme over and over. We we look at ourselves as a Christian nation and a Christian people, right? And yet we truly do not know who we are before God and all of the sins that we're committing against our fellow man. We absolutely cannot be his people until we walk in equity and justice. Cannot be. Let's go ahead and continue. A people who provoke me to anger continually to my face, who sacrifice in gardens. They're offering sacrifices that are not the sacrifices that God wants. And remember, the gardens are the churches. They are the congregations when we come together, okay? And burn incense on altars of brick. Now, this is where I wanted to get to. So what is incense? This is not literal incense, okay? This is symbolism. So we're going to go to Psalm 141. We'll go to verse 1. Yahweh, I cry out to you. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be set before you. What? As incense. The lifting up of my hands. What? As the evening sacrifice. So the sacrifices that we're making in the gardens is reaching to him, like lifting our arms in prayer. Or if you are Mormon or one of those traditions, then you fold your arms in prayer. But it's really interesting to me that in both of these traditions, we are doing something very specific with our arms, right? And our hands as a symbol that we are entering into prayer. And here it's calling it the evening sacrifice. And prayer is incense. Okay, so what are we sacrificing? We're sacrificing ourselves, our time. Okay, so isn't that interesting? So now we're in Revelation chapter 5. Now when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. Okay, do you see that? The golden bowls of incense are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song saying, you are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain and have redeemed us to God by your blood out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation. Do you see that? This is not just about blood Israel. This is everyone, anyone that comes to the Mashiach, to Christ, in true humility of heart, are partakers and become Israel. You have made us kings and priests to our God, and we shall reign on the earth. Okay, so incense is prayers. This is really important to understand the symbolism, because otherwise this doesn't really make any sense to us who sacrifice in gardens. Okay, who go through the actions of worship, like raising our hands or folding our arms or whatever it is, and burn incense or pray on altars of brick. Now, this is interesting, who sit among the graves. Now, the dead graves would have been considered, the dead were unclean, and they would not sit among graves to worship. The Hebrews would not have done that, okay? And spend the night in the tombs, all right? But who does do that? Look, who offer incense upon altars of brick, who sit among graves. Could that be who he's talking about? If you're not seeing this, if you're just listening, I'm showing you a picture of a brick church that has on the side of it a graveyard, which is a very common thing, especially in the eastern United States. who eat swine's flesh. We are a pork-eating people, and the broth of abominable things in their vessels. Mussels, so clam chowder would be considered a broth of abominable things. That would be unclean food to the Hebrews. So if a prophet was seeing this and writing it down based on their own traditions, I think he would describe it exactly like this. This could not have been the people, the Hebrews of old, because they wouldn't do these things. It wasn't part. They wouldn't have graves next to or within a place of worship. It just wouldn't have happened. Who say, keep to yourself, do not come near me, for I am holier than you. And don't we use the phrase all the time about Christians that they're holier, they have a holier than thou attitude? These are smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all the day. I find that fascinating. Behold, it is written before me, I will not keep silence, but will repay, even repay into their bosom. Your iniquities, inequalities, unequalness, and the iniquities of your fathers together, says Yahweh, who have burned incense on the mountains and blasphemed me on the hills. Now, what was Jacob's additional inheritance? So go back and look at Jacob and the everlasting hills. He had I believe that is describing an additional land grant beyond what Abraham and Isaac received. Okay, this is the up to the bounds of the everlasting hills is the way it's described. So that is the boundary, is the everlasting hills. And it's really interesting to me, you have burned incense on the mountains and blasphemed me on the hills. Are these the people that are in this territory where the everlasting hills are? Praying on those hills in a way that's blasphemous to him, asking for war and strife, mistreating widows and orphans. Why are we not taking care of them? How can we send billions of dollars overseas for war and yet have the poor among us? Why is that happening if we're a Christian nation? Why is it that a single mother can't give the same quality education to her children that the affluent can? There's nothing Christian about that. Why is it they can't take music lessons and enjoy the joys and refinement of music? Why are they fatherless, and yet we're not reaching out and filling in the void from not having their father? They're fatherless largely because of the poverty cycle that we've created by not allowing families to receive funds if they have a father in the home that's working and yet not making enough to fully support his family. How dare we? I mean, seriously, our sins are immeasurable. Thus says Yahweh, I'm in verse 8, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, do not destroy it, for a blessing is in it, so will I do for my servants' sake, that I may not destroy them all. Okay, the servant, that's another thing that we're going to flesh out here. A lot of people are expecting this to be one person that is going to come like a Moses character, but it's not what I'm seeing. It's not what the scriptures seem to be telling me. This servant, okay, it says that I may not destroy them all for my servants' sake. If you go back to Isaiah chapter 1, remember I read to you that, let me just find it really quickly. Okay. Starting in verse 8, so the daughter of Zion is left as a booth in a vineyard, as a hut in a garden of cucumbers. Remember, where are they offering these prayers and sacrifices in a garden. But there is only going to be this tiny group left in this garden or this vineyard. Okay, it says, as a besieged city, they are the ones that have been cast out from the gardens of worship, because they're truly seeking God. And yet those who are saying they're seeking God are not. And so when they bring up the scriptures, or they present to the church that what they're doing is not right before God, they get cast out, right? Anyway, it says, unless Yahweh Sabaoth had left to us a very small remnant, we would have become like Sodom. We would have been made like Gomorrah. But we won't be. And we won't be because he is going to preserve some of them for the servant's sake, that I may not destroy them all. He's going to see that there is a blessing still found in the cluster of the new wine, still found in the grapes. Not all the grapes are going to be appointed to wrath. I will bring forth descendants from Jacob, and from Judah an heir of my mountains. Okay, so descendants from Jacob, that is a group. That is Israel. And from Judah an heir of my mountains. I am thinking that this is Yahushua HaMashiach. This is Jesus Christ. I could be misunderstanding, but I think that's who that's referring to. My elect shall inherit it, and my servants shall dwell there. Servants. Sharon shall be a fold of flocks, and the valley of Achor a place for herds to lie down, for my people who have sought me. Okay, I wanted to pause here just for a second. And the valley of Achor a place for herds to lie down, for my people who have sought me. The valley of Achor. Achor means distress or trouble. And when I realized that, it reminded me of Jeremiah chapter 30. Okay, starting in verse 4. Now these are the words that Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and Judah. So these are both of them, both of these groups. For thus says Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask now and see whether a man is ever in labor with child. Okay, and remember, this is the time we just read yesterday about the woman that's in labor, right? That's going to give birth to the man-child and then to her other offspring. So why do I see every man with his hands on his loins like a woman in labor, and all faces turned pale? Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it, and it is the time of Jacob's trouble. Remember that Achor, we just read about the valley of Achor, that it will become a place for the sheep or the herd to lie down, right? So this is the time of Jacob's trouble, and Achor means trouble or distress. But he shall be saved out of it. Okay, which is exactly the message that we get from this. And the valley of trouble, a place for herds to lie down, for my people who have sought me. To take this a little further, in Hosea, it also talks about the valley of Achor. And Hosea is the story of Israel, of the northern kingdom, its fall, and then its redemption. Anyway, in verse 14 it says, therefore, behold, I will allure her, will bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfort to her. I will give her vineyards from there, and the valley of Achor as a door of hope. Come out of her, my people. At some point there will be a gathering, just like we read yesterday, a great multitude on the mountains, right? Covered in a cloud. That's this people. For a cloud will cover all the dwellings of Zion. She shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Egypt. Because right now, remember, that's where Israel is. They're in bondage in Egypt again, spiritual Egypt. They're in bondage again. And it'll be just like when they came out of bondage before. And this place will have been prepared, just like the city of Goshen was prepared when the great famine erupted in the land. When this great catastrophe erupts in the land, there is a place prepared for those who flee out of her, come out of Babylon in this case. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and receive not of her plagues. And that place prepared will be the modern day Goshen, which will be the New Jerusalem. I'm back in Isaiah 65. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, behold, my servants shall eat, but you shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink. Why? Because they're going to be in Goshen, just like when the famine hit the land in during the time of Jacob. Everybody was going hungry, but not Jacob, not the 12 tribes of Israel, because they had gone to their place of safety, which was Goshen, or in this case, the valley of Achor, the valley of trouble, but became a place. So in the midst of this trouble, in the midst of this destruction, it actually became a place of safety and a refuge. Isn't that interesting? Behold, my servants shall eat, but you shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but you shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but you shall be ashamed. Behold, my servants shall sing for joy of heart, but you shall cry for sorrow of heart, and wail for grief of spirit. You shall leave your name as a curse to my chosen. For Yahweh will slay you and call his servants by another name, which is exactly what it says in the book of Revelation when it talks about the 7 churches. It tells us that they will be given a new name, because the name that was being used before ended up being a den of thieves who were destroyed. They ruined that name. And so a new name will be given. So that he who blesses himself in the earth shall bless himself in the God of truth. So those that are believing in God are those that are going to be blessed in the earth as well. Right now, the wicked seem to prosper, but it's only for a moment. And he who swears in the earth shall swear by the God of truth, because the former troubles, there's that trouble, achor, are forgotten, and because they are hidden from my eyes. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, because heaven is his throne, that's what we're told, and the earth is his footstool. But his throne, the New Jerusalem, is coming down to earth. And then the earth becomes made new again, right? And that's why it's new heavens. You could put in the place of that, I create new Jerusalem and a new earth. And the former shall not be remembered or come to mind, but be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem as a rejoicing, and her people a joy. I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. The voice of weeping shall no longer be heard in her, nor the voice of crying, because it is going to be a place of the trouble, Jacob's trouble, a place of great crying and weeping. The calamities that we are about to go through, if I'm correct, and the United States is where the New Jerusalem is going to be located. The troubles we're about to go through are going to be very difficult. And that's part of the reason why I'm going back through the book of Isaiah, so that my mind and heart can be prepared, and I will not falter in trusting in my God. No more shall an infant from there live but a few days, nor an old man who has not fulfilled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. There's going to be no more of these wage earners. Everyone is going to have an inheritance, their own homes and their own vineyards and their own possessions. They shall not build and another inhabit. See that? These are the wage slaves who run around building fine houses for others while they're living in apartments that they don't own if they're lucky. If they're lucky. They shall, maybe instead of that, they're just renting a mobile home and then running the risk of perishing in tornadoes and things like that. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree, so shall be the days of my people. And my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth children for trouble. The days of trouble will be gone. For all the children will be taught of the Lord, of Yahweh, and great shall be the peace of our children. For they shall be the descendants of the blessed of Yahweh, and their offspring with them. It shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer. And while they're still speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, and dust shall be the serpent's food. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, says Yahweh. Thank you for studying with me today. Shalom.